Hi and welcome to a new video. In this video I just wanted to go through the new beta version of our ASUS firmware. So as you can see, it's probably been out since I think November, December last year, and of course it's still in beta testing phase. I think I did do a video before touching on some of the features. So this is just I wanted to go through and install it on the GT-AX 11000. So as you can see here, the current beta version, and that's release candidate 3, you can see here that it does actually include the supported GT-AX 11000, and then you can see the other routers here they actually supports. So as it said, there is still got issues with the RT-AX 86U and the RT-AX 58U, but I do believe that it is due for the new release candidate soon, so hopefully it will start to support this and a few other actual routers as well, including the GT-AXE 11000. So if you are interested, I'll put this link in the description where you can download it. Again, I've installed it on my router, so you don't have to install it on yours, because it is very buggy right now because it is only a test version. So it does have a lot of bugs in it, and I would advise probably if you're using it as your main router in your home, it's probably best that you don't actually install this until it's much more stable. And again, I'll do a video or update you through I know that who subscribe to my channel I normally put out some community posts, so I'll keep you up to date if a stable release actually comes out, and let you all know, so you can download it and perhaps test it. But right now I advise probably not to, unless you've just got a router that you just want to test this on to see for specific like features. But other than that, again, I'll just say watch this video and see if anything there, but again, don't use this on your main router because you'll have issues like I have. I'm currently having the actual settings, and the web interface doesn't load properly, and some dropped connections. IP version 6 has some problems, and general Wi-Fi connectivity. So I would advise for all those issues, probably best not to install it right now, but just watch this video, and it's just to give you an idea of what's coming up in the future releases and the actual software. So if we go back to the router, so as you can see here, again I'm using the GT-AX 11000, and I've got here the actual installed. So if I go down to administration and then go to firmware, you'll see that I've got here the actual test version I've installed, and we'll come on to some of these features later on. So as you can see here, you can, if you are interested, as I say, if you've got a spare router and you did want to test it yourself, I'll put the forum post in there, and then all you have to do is just click on here to download it from a Google Drive. It is safe, it's from the developer and everything else, so there's nothing to worry about, but just be reassured again, don't use this on your main router. So as we go back to the dashboards, you can see the general layout hasn't changed with the actual graph. So you've got the network traffic, the download and upload, how many clients you've got connected, what mode you're in, and also your WAN IP address. I haven't got this currently connected, and you can see there you've got the 2.4 gigahertz frequency and then both the 5 gigahertz frequencies. And again, I haven't got Smart Connect, so I've got these split out as single Wi-Fi names or SSIDs. Again, everything down here is the same, so you've got the choice of your boost key, so this hasn't changed in this new version. Again, as you can see here, it does have some problems loading up certain parts. This is what I was talking about. This is test version, so just be wary again. So within AI Mesh, if we click on here, you can see on the clients, and then you can see what's connected. So if we go to network, now it has a bit more information going down here on your network, and then the port statuses if it's connected, any warnings and unplugged, and also about your USB as well. So it's nice that they're adding more optimization and settings here. Again, it's the same as before, as you can see here. If you do have the backhaul and you've got another router connected and using Ethernet, just make sure that one's switched on. Going to the AI protection. So again, I think I've done some videos again about this, but as you can generally see here, it has all the AI protection that's built in, and it's done by Trend Micro. That's the company, a third-party company that does all the like scanning and everything. Again, as I said before, it does have its limitations. It's not perfect, having this security, so don't rely on it 100%. Always make sure you install antivirus on each of your PC or even Mac nowadays, and make sure it includes some kind of, if you've got the Windows default or the Mac, you can switch on firewall just to give you that extra protection, because nowadays there's so many sort of like cryptoware and malware and everything else, and viruses, Trojan horses, and scams and things like that. So it is always good to have that as your main purpose for security on your Mac or PC. But again, here, as you can see here, I've done some testing here, and it actually does pick up quite good. So it has actually, we'll go into in a minute, and you can see the IPS has actually picked up someone trying to access and do a scan for a vulnerability on my computers here. So because I've just built an Unraid server, so instead of buying a Synology or a QNAP NAS, I decided to build my own, so I had that open to the internet. So obviously someone has tried to scan. Of course it didn't get through, but I'm not on a static IP, so it can change, but again, it's good that it actually picked it up on there as well. So as we go up here, we can just quickly go through these. So as I said in previous videos, you got your security events, your threat activity, so it gives you a graph, and then it gives you the device as well. So you can see the top device is my partner's iPhone. She's obviously going to sites, and you can see here as well the actual threat is a scam, and what it is. So you can see if it's your Mac or your iPhone or your Windows PC, and you can see the destination here. So necessarily you've actually accessed this website. This could be when you've actually loaded a web page up, and then it actually opens up a pop-up, or an advertisement with built into it goes to this address automatically. But it does give you the date, the threat, the source, so your device, and also the destination, so you can see there as well. And I think this is really good to see that it's actually working, and this is generally working as well, so it's really good to see, and you can see the devices. Moving on to the two-way IPS. So this is the intrusion prevention system. So this more like the actually protects you from external scans and things like that. And it is not foolproof, but it is quite good. So as you can see here, the details of the protected event. So you can see here that 9:38 in the morning, and the level was high, and you can see the type was external, and this is the source. So this was the actual IP address that it actually scanned from. And normally this is when you do a trace of this, most of the time it won't come back to, if they're clever enough, it won't come back to the original source. And then you've got the destination. So this is my internal address of where my Unraid server I've just built, and you can see here the actual threat. You can click on here and it'll give you more information. Most of the time I find it's easier to actually just copy and paste this into Google and do a search for it. It comes up with more relevant information, because as most people, including me, when you actually read out web remote command execution via shell script 1A, I mean, that means nothing to me. I don't know what that means. So always Google it, see what, if it's a port that's open, you can perhaps close it and change the port and things like that to make things more secure. So you can see this as a real life example of how it's actually incorporated that and then protected the network. And then lastly, you've got device prevention and blocking. So there's nothing here currently, but again, as it says there, this feature basically prevents infected devices from being basically taken over as a zombie or a botnet attack. So basically it'll turn it into something, one of your devices, your fridge, into a device that ends up trying to hack something else. So nothing much has really changed in there in this new future update. I'm just going to quickly go through the rest because nothing much has changed as well. There's not much has changed between web apps and filters and the time scheduling. Same as game acceleration, that still has the same as your internet speed and everything else. And then the features here as well as in my previous videos. If you do want to know all the different details, it's in the playlist and they're still relevant. You have the open NAT, so this is where you can open up ports, and then it makes it much easier because you can just select the games here and it will open them up to the internet. Again, be careful of how you use this because this will open up your network to the internet. Then we have game radar, so as before it will ask you your location up here. Of course you click allow and then it will basically try and track the nearest place for you. Hopefully my one will be the nearest, will be EU. For being in the United Kingdom. So yeah, you can have a look here. Moving on to the Wi-Fi radar. So again, this hasn't changed. They've updated some of the scripts in the background to hopefully make this a bit more reliable. But other than that, as you're front facing as a normal end user, you won't really notice anything, but hopefully it'll be a bit more reliable. And then VPN, this is where one of the main features has now been built into it. So we've always had the VPN server where we've had PPTP, OpenVPN and IPv6 VPN. So as you can see these three here, as I suggested before, this PPTP don't use unless you really have to for some reason, because this one has got loads of security problems. You've got OpenVPN, that's normally the general one to use previously, and that's across iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, so you can get that device set up for everything. The same as the IPv6 VPN, that's normally more for iOS devices or Apple devices because they support that easier. And then we have VPN Fusion, so that hasn't changed. They've just upgraded some of the back end to it, so you can then set up your external VPNs. As you can see here, I've set up a NordVPN, so if I want to try and get my Apple TV, or you've got a certain device you want to try and watch Netflix on a different country, you can set it up here. You have Instant Guard, so this is ASUS's own built-in VPN server. So as we've gone through in previous videos in my playlist, I will link to the playlist in the description. You'll be able to see there is where you can switch this on, and then you'll be able to download the Instant Guard app for your phone, and then it will automatically connect here. It's like a one button click and you're automatically connected. So for anyone that's doesn't want to have any trouble of setting things up and things like that, then you've got the option here where it's just one click literally, and it makes life much easier for you, and it is still very secure as well as a VPN. And then this is the brand new feature that's been added into this new future beta firmware that's going to come out soon, is Wireguard. So Wireguard is a new standard. It's basically a new standard that's brought out, so it makes your connection faster. So it's built for like gaming and also for watching video, and then getting your more responsive times, your ping and things like that. So, and it's supposed to be just as secure as the other, like OpenVPN as well on Wireguard, and it's supposed to be cross-platform and easy to set up. So this is why they're starting to implement this new technology. It's supposed to be like the future of VPN. Like the best standard that they're going for. So as you can see here, you can click on there and you can actually set up Wireguard here. So you can click yes, and then it says allow DNS. So your DNS, as we've said in previous videos, is your domain name server. So this is where it looks up the google.com and then your yahoo.com and things like that, and from an IP address to the actual name. So you can allow that as well. You can use a pre-shared key, so normally that's defaulted to yes. So the pre-shared key is something where you'll type in a key there, so it's an extra thing you have to type in when you're actually setting up your Wireguard application or your client actually on your phone or your other devices like your tablet or your computers. Again, then you've got the private key and public, so these are all displayed once you've set it up. And again, you've got the peer option as well, where you can connect from one Wireguard server to another. So if we just quickly click on apply after you've hit yes, and we can then just see the options that it actually shows you, giving you an example. So in future you might have different profiles under here, but right now there's only one. So once you've enabled it, you'll be able to see it automatically generates a private key. Again, a private key is something you should never share with anyone, give out or anything like that. This is yours. And again, as it says here, public key is your public key, and that helps connect and everything else. So yeah, again, never share your private key with anyone. And then you can keep the defaults here, unless you do want to change the port and you're having any issues, you can change that to anything that you wish, except for the 443 or 80 numbers, because that's used normally by the router to actually connect its web interface. And you can see down here, once you have done that, it will then give you the public key, and then your private key is hidden, and that's that one generated up here. And then you've got your listening port, and then this is like a log, so when you start setting up and connecting, you can see it all working properly, or if there's any issues, it should get displayed at the bottom here. So as we said, this is the brand new feature that they've just added as part of this firmware update that should be coming out soon, but they're currently testing. So next one is traffic analysis, if I can get the word out. So on here is basically gives you the stats, and I do like to I know sometimes people think this may slow down our routers by having all these things on. I don't really use much of the others, but I do use this traffic analyzer just to see, the data that's going through on my different devices, my iPhones, my iPads, and then any CCTV or the Apple TV and things like that. So it's always good to actually see. And then you've got your bandwidth monitor, your traffic monitor, and web history you can switch on. I don't have any of those on, but I just have the traffic analyzer on, so it just gives me an idea of how much data you're using. Moving on to the advanced settings. So we go to network map. So as you can see here, this hasn't changed either. You've still got your view list and your AI mesh node here, and then your status. So again, you've got the ports down here now showing of the actual what's connected, so you can see what ports are being used. You can see here I've got ports 1 and 2 connected. So that's the for the 1 gigabit connections, and you can see for my LAN, I've connected that to my switch as a network switch, and I've connected that to the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on the back. And you should have this one as well. This is your internet, your WAN port, and that will be green as well, but I haven't got mine currently plugged in. And then it gives you your LAN IP and everything else. And then also under status, as usual, as before, it gives you our quad-core CPU that are built into the actual router, how performance is going. So you always, if you do have any problems where you think the router's having any problems slowing down, or you've got lots of features all switched on, like you're using Time Machine and then USB sharing and all the game functions and things like that, and you think it's running a bit slow, just come in here, just check here for the RAM, what's being used and what is free. So of course, if you've only got like 9 MB left and you're up to like 80 or 90% on the RAM, and these are constantly at 80 or something percent, or even above 70, then you're overworking the actual router, and you perhaps need to rethink, do you really need all these settings that you have currently switched on? And also, one other thing also to be aware of is, don't forget our routers are running 24/7, so it's always a good idea to keep them well ventilated. And sometimes it is nice to actually perhaps just, if you're not going to use it for a while, just perhaps switch it off, let it cool down for a while, because these things are on 24/7, and they do run quite hot sometimes as well, if you're in a hot environment as well. So moving on to wireless advanced settings. You can see here, as I said, I haven't got the Smart Connect enabled, so I do split out my 3 channels. That's my preference, and I've said advice before, if you do want to optimize your network for speed and the devices, you have multiple devices, it's always good to set them to basically not to use a smart connect. As you can see here, none of these actual changes I've seen in the background. So the WPS, we advise always to switch off, and the WDS and then the MAC filtering and everything else, they're all the same, and they haven't changed in this new beta firmware that's due to be coming out and later on in the year. So everything else is changed. Just one other thing, to always make sure that you've got a very strong key here, so that's your Wi-Fi password. I know it's a pain sometimes to type in such long characters in, but normally you only have to do it once, when you're setting up the device. So it is worthwhile to use something at least 12 characters or even more, with numbers and letters, uppercase and lowercase, if you can, or even special characters. So it's always a good practice. And don't forget, sometimes some older devices, or especially when using on the 2.4 gigahertz, is probably always a good idea just to make sure that sometimes certain special characters aren't compatible. So I've got one device that for some reason won't connect if I have a question mark or an asterisk in the password. So I only found out the hard way when I was just trying to test it and see why it wasn't connecting, and everything else was. So again, nothing else has been changed on here, and again, it's probably always best to try and use your authentication mode for all the channels, WPA2 to WPA3, because most devices will have a software update like Windows and Mac and your tablet or your phone. Most will be able to use that compatible better encryption for your network. Again, guest network hasn't changed at all as well. I'll quickly skip through most of these because again, the LAN hasn't changed. The details are all still the same. The only thing it has done is for IPTV. Some of you, you've got some more networks now on here to select using on the profile menu. The internet, so your WAN port, that hasn't changed either, the settings, so that's roughly the same as well. So as you can see, I've still got some issues connecting and everything else. It is very buggy, the interface and everything else. That's why I advise probably perhaps not installing this until it's much better. USB sharing again hasn't changed. You've still got your AI disk and all the rest here. I still don't know if they've actually updated the 3G 4G capability, because when I last tested this wasn't really working properly. So it would be good to see if they can update that in this future release as well. And then we've got AI Cloud 2.0s are still the same version. So you've got there, like I said in previous videos, if you do want to go into the more details, I have got previous videos. I don't want to bore you in this video with all of that. And again, I'll put the playlist link in the bottom. The Alexa and the IFTTT haven't also, so this is for the automation. IP version 6 hasn't changed. Your firewall, your administration, system log and network tools hasn't changed as well. So as I said before, the only thing that perhaps has changed, you might see in administration under firmware upgrade. As you can see here, you've got your normal firmware version to your signature version. So this is actually stands for the signatures for your AI protection. So that's like the virus database or anything malware database that it checks. And then here you've got the update here for the actual firmware, and this new text box here you've got here where you tick the box and I would like to retrieve basic beta firmware. I'd advise, if you're using this as your main router, and never to tick that, because if you're downloading test version firmware, 1 minute your router could be fine and then suddenly overnight it's not working, or your devices are not connected, or if you're out of home and you're away somewhere, it suddenly downloaded it. Especially if you have auto firmware upgrade done, then it will cause you issues. You won't be able to connect back for any reason. So personally I'd leave that off, but again, it's up to you personal. So yeah, so this is just testing the beta version of the software to show you some of the new features and everything else. As generally, as I was saying, it's not too much of an upgrade. It's adding mostly is some background performance, hopefully upgrading the issues around there and any vulnerabilities that it's updating, and also giving you the latest version of all the many different third-party parts of the software that runs in behind the actual ASUS firmware on our routers. As we know, it does so many different things, so that should be all upgraded. And the main thing is actually the VPN, where it's now supporting Wireguard, and you've got that actual feature. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed going quickly through this. I've gone through it as quick as I can, hopefully not bored you. Again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. Thanks for watching and have a great day.